Hello, today I will be teaching my friend Sydney how to practice modern yoga. We are beginning with breath control exercises, which are very common across all forms of yoga, including classical yoga practices. The first modern yoga pose we will be demonstrating is called the child's pose. This yoga class is based off of classical yoga, which includes the use of asanas and breath control, which are practiced in modern yoga as well. Modern yoga practice is different than classical yoga because there aren't as many preparatory steps required to practice modern yoga. In modern yoga, yogis only need to nourish their bodies with food, water, and sleep prior to yoga class, as well as to wear clothing that allows for various body movements. Now we will be exercising the halfway lift pose. Yogis had a much more extensive preparation process for classical yoga practice. For example, a guru was required to be present in the hut where cow manure was spread on the walls. There were certain time limits for practicing yoga, and the time of year, weather conditions, and yoga location needed to be adequate. Yogis also needed to prepare their bodies by various cleansing routines. These cleansing routine requirements often included vomiting, cleaning the anus with water through a tube, and using a thread which was inserted through the nostril and out of the mouth to prepare for yoga practice. This next modern yoga pose is called the downward dog. Although classical yoga was mostly practiced by men, now modern yoga is predominantly practiced by women. The next yoga pose we will be demonstrating is called the upward facing dog pose or the cobra pose. Modern yoga is centered around the idea of de-stressing and centering yourself, while classical yoga is more centered around the idea of reaching liberation and samadhi. Now we're going to come up into the warrior two pose, and we're going to do it on both sides as to get a nice stretch in both legs. As opposed to classical yoga, in order to practice modern yoga, people do not need to avoid eating certain foods, such as foods containing salt, mustard, food which is sour, hot, or dry. This next pose is called the warrior one pose. Modern yoga is also different than classical yoga because there is no limitation on sexual intercourse or the use of fire. Now we are going to come up into the extended triangle pose. And for this pose as well, we are going to do it on both sides as to get a nice stretch on both sides of your body. Modern yoga contains many similarities to postural yoga. Although the classical yoga poses were simple and mostly done while sitting down, modern yoga still demonstrates poses. The only difference is that some of them are exercised while standing up, and they tend to be slightly more complex. Before we end our yoga class today, we are going to return to the lotus position and do some breath control exercises. To finish my yoga class today, we are going to be lying down and relaxing all of the muscles in our bodies. Namaste.